And now, Spotlight Montana with Laurel Staples.
Listed in the National Register of Historic Places, the Pekin Noodle Parlor in Butte is the oldest continually family-operating Chinese restaurant in America. It's a legendary restaurant owned and operated by a legendary family. In this Spotlight Montana, we hear from its current owner, Jerry Tam. We talk about the Pekin's history, its legacy, its famous customers, share stories, talk about its future, and so much more.
The Pekin, certainly legendary, with a legendary family behind it. And just go ahead, Jerry, and start from the beginning. When did your family get involved with the Pekin, and how did that happen?
Okay. Well, my father, Danny Wong, who is originally named Dean Kun Tam, came to America in the early 1900s at the age of 14. He first stopped in San Francisco and dealt blackjack and was a tour guide. And then a century later, it seems like he is now the proud owner of the oldest Chinese restaurant in America. And so how he ended up in Montana was in San Francisco, we have family associations that basically when you get off the boat and become an immigrant, you go to these family associations and they place you with jobs. So he was placed in a small town called Butte, Montana, which was a mining town. Whereas we had a Chinatown here, it was like a melting pot, like a San Francisco here in Butte, Montana, where we had an Irish town, and we had Little Italy. And we also had a Chinatown. So his great grandfather Tam Quan Yi was working with a family member named Hum Yao, and they opened up the Pekin Noodle Parlors, which is funny because there's only one, but they had ambitions to open several of them because they thought the economy and that during the 1900s with the railroads that this place was going to be a boom town. But one survived, and that one surviving is called the Pekin Cafe and Lounge. And that's where I am today. And I am the son of Danny Wong, and his migration story is kind of an American, legend. I mean, the guy comes to America, he doesn't have any skills, no education, and lo and behold, he gets to Butte, Montana by the family association and starts working with his great grandfather. And then after a couple of years of doing, first starting out with dishes, then learning how to cook, his family decided to return back to California, where he got an opportunity to buy the restaurant, but with no money and nothing but the suitcase that he came in with off the boat from China. He just went up to Uptown Butte and went to two bankers, which were still his best friends today, and asked for a loan. And they said, Danny, you know what, for you, we'll do it as long as you keep that place going, forever and ever. So they gave him a small, meager loan. He bought out the Pekin, and he's worked here every day. Some say that his home wasn't even his private residence. It was here because he basically spent all his time here. My mother hated it, but she got to go to San Francisco and be with her family half the time of the year to get away from the cold. But he struggled. He had all the hard winters. We were open pretty much 24/7. He had just a great work ethic. And he worked all the way till his death in last November. And it was kind of, bittersweet to see him, not pass away here, which we'd all had bets on that he would go with the business. So he loved it dearly. He loved people. He loved Butte's community, and I'm trying to keep his legend alive.
Oh yes, everyone loved Danny, and we miss him terribly. And he really left behind a legacy. Your thoughts on his legacy and the legacy that you're carrying on?
Well, legacies come and go. Recently, we had an M&M tragedy, which that was a huge legacy. And that was a part of his life. He used to go to the M&M before he came to work and dealt pan and just talked with all of his friends. But the legacy continues in all the memories and stories that people have. And recently, with his passing, I've heard so many stories that I could write a novel about, his kindness, what he's done for people, and also what people have done for him. And so the legacy is just kindness. He was just a kind human being. He never yelled, he never screamed, he never got in any fuss. I've never seen him mad. And his legacy, which was written in a couple articles, especially the Montana Standard, was, the legacy of kindness. So he was just a kind gentleman.
For those unfamiliar with the Pekin, tell me a little bit about the room that you're sitting in.
Okay. Well, this is the dining room, and the famous part about the Pekin is this covered booths. So we have booths on the left and on the right, and there's 7 booths on side. They have original curtains that my mom sewed up, and they seat anywhere from 2 to 6 people. And we don't take any reservations for those tables because it's, come one, come all, But I'm in the dining room right now that seats around 20 people, and this is where the parties happen. This is where the birthdays, the reunions, and they, up to literally 30 to 50 people come and gather. It's a joint to lounge, which makes that a little bit more festival. We're kind of a drinking town, so we have spirits and alcohol to go along with the Chinese food.
I like the Chinese beer there.
Yeah, so we have 2 types. The most famous beer, which is Tsingtao, and then Butte beer, which comes in a nice fancy Butte bottle.
Describe what the experience is like dining at the Pekin. And a lot hasn't changed, right? The menu is pretty much the same.
Well, since I came over to help my father in 2009, the only thing I wanted to do away with was the American menu, the steaks, the eggs, and the hamburgers. But that's what got kids and kind of, people that weren't really familiar with Chinese food into the restaurant. But when you first come to the Pekin, you have to walk up 2 flights of stairs. So that pretty much eliminates half the population of Butte because it's kind of an elderly community. But luckily we have takeout orders for them. And you get up the stairs, you can either go left or right. Most people take a turn at the right, and they see this little casino, 5 machines that are just, you could hear cows mooing and lights flashing. And people kind of wonder, it's like, why is there even a lounge? I thought this is a Chinese restaurant. Well, our machines are played because people, when they order takeout, we send them to the bar and they put $5, anywhere $20. Some people leave with $800. Other people, just sit down, watch the news on television, watch you specifically, and they wait in the lounge for their order to go. But the people that come by and sit down, there's never a wait. We are kind of what fast food is to dine in, as to fast food is to like McDonald's. We're just quick. When we put an order up, it only takes a couple minutes to prepare. Everything's fresh though, and everything's cooked on the woks, but it's high-speed cooking. So when you sit down, you get offered tea and coffee or milk, or any drinks from the bar. And then our appetizers, which include barbecue pork, foiled chicken, egg rolls, wontons. That always starts it. And the best part about it is my dad always says, you have to have appetizers because I put a lot of salt and MSG so it whets your appetite. So at that point, you're starving. And we have special dinners that come in a package. Yeah, that comes with noodles, rice, and sweet and sour chicken. And then we have our specialty wok orders that are made fresh on the wok, like beef and broccoli, fresh vegetables. And our signature items are the chop suey and chow mein, and that's the marquee on the side, chop suey. And that's just a mixture of fresh vegetables, which is green onions, celery, onions, and bean sprouts, just mixed together in its own vegetable gravy.
It's so
and then we have certain Cantonese style food, like our egg rolls are different from the spring rolls that you're used to. And then this thing called egg foo young, which is a vegetable patty. And there's only 2 restaurants in America that serve this type of food, one in New York and one in Butte, Montana. So we're very specific on the type of food we make, very specific on the just the look and the authenticity of Southern Chinese cuisine.
interesting. And I love the carts that go up and down the aisle.
Your camera's sitting on a cart right now, so we can move it around.
Take a look at one of those. It's fun to see them going up and down there in the restaurant. It's just, the food is delicious. I have had so many memorable nights there at the Pekin. Tell me a little bit about the famous people who have dined there, and then they became longtime friends of your father's and friends of you and your family.
Well, in the recent past 5 years since I've been here, I was very surprised to see some of the celebrities. And the recent celebrities were when the boy bands came in to Butte. I don't know if you heard of it. It was called Dead Seven, which was the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and the other one. What was the other one? Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and 98 Degrees. one of the producers that was in one of the bands came to Butte, and at this table right here, Howie from the Backstreet Boys was celebrating his birthday and sang. The whole 3-boy band sang happy birthday. And my dad was here, and he could not believe that they were professionals. They were boy bands singing their own peer happy birthday. It was amazing. It was so amazing, like it just starstruck, that you couldn't even get your phone out to record it. But the greatest celebrity that has ever been here was Evel Knievel. And Evel Knievel's from Butte, Montana, and he's the international known stunt jumper. And him and his family have always celebrated Evel Knievel days here. And they brought in all of his friends, like Spanky Spangler and all the stuntmen. And even Tim Montana, who is our local celebrity, loves it here, and even filmed his video American Thread in the Pekin with my dad cutting, chop suey, which is kind of an honor. But my favorite 2 celebrities that I've known since I was a kid, and now a recent friend, was Waylon Jennings. Waylon Jennings used to sit at this bar and talk to my bartender for hours and just sit there. He wouldn't sing a tune. He would just sit there. Everyone knew who he was. He just sat and he ate. He came by himself. And Waylon Jennings was one of the most famous customers that no one knew. And then recently, a newfound friend, Bill Pullman, came in with his wife, celebrated their anniversary. And he's done such many great things on Netflix lately with The Sinner that, it's hard for him to come up here to his ranch. But he's been here, and when he does, he loves to stop here and just eat. He loves the food. He loves the people.
A lot of people coming through those doors and enjoying the good food there.
Well, it's just a comfortable environment, I think people feel. When they hear the buzz of the crowd, that we don't play music, we just hear the clink and clatter of dishes and the yelling and screaming, take the food out. And that's what people get. It's very exciting here. It's not a moment of dullness here at the Pekin. And that's why my dad never left. He just knew that his friends were here. They were here to come see him. People just, wanted to bring their friends to try something new, and then end up being, closer friends with him. So it's a kind of remarkable place. And, with the pandemic happened, people don't really understand that it could be all taken away from you one day. And, coming to the Pekin, people enjoy that, it's very sociable. Not only that, the food is good. And, we used to open up late night. And some people just like to eat late at night.
What was it like for you growing up in this environment? And I know at one point it was inspiration for a successful fashion design career for you.
Well, I can remember I have a picture of me literally 2 years old leaning up against the same, pink salmon walls. And it was just a shy little kid, and I started, washing dishes here, then bussing tables, and then waitering. I never cooked anything. And then I graduated and went to college. But because my dad kind of forced me and my sisters into, talking to people, it really opened up our personalities. And so with that, I was able to talk to anybody, ask for anything, and just kind of develop my personality and character. And it was all because of my mom and dad in this restaurant. My sisters are still on the shy side, but they ended up, meeting their husbands. And, you would never think my twin sisters, who were just twins, the shyest twin girls, would just go out there and put themselves out there for dating and everything. So the Pekin, you get it, is just a very sociable place. We all kind of were forced into being able to talk to people from all different races, all different creeds, all different colors. And my dad welcomed everyone into his restaurant.
Speaking in the building, it's more than the Pekin. There's so much history with this building, several levels in that building. What would you like to share about its history?
Well, one of the rumors is that keno, the game of keno, the 80 spot numbers on the machines and what is very prevalent in Las Vegas, may have been invented in the basement of the Pekin, because we have original keno tickets with Chinese characters from the early 1900s that were taken down to Reno, Nevada by, I guess you would say, the bosses. And they converted that into numbers. And then the numbers eventually made its way back to Montana. And my dad has, the Pekin Noodle Parlor has a casino cage in the lower level of the basement that has all the winning keno tickets, every proof and evidence that The game of keno was played down there during the early 1900s. So keno may have been invented at the Pekin Noodle Parlor. So it's amazing to see downstairs.
Yeah.
But there's also a mercantile where a lot of the stuff that was imported during the early 1900s had to come into one place. So it went from Seattle, either it went from a ship from China to Seattle, a ship from China to San Francisco, and then Seattle, San Francisco to Butte, Montana. So we have addresses for all the vinegar, the soy sauce, all the china, all the clothing, all the cookware, all downstairs. They're perfectly preserved, and it literally came in the same crates that it came from China. So it's really remarkable to see that not only did my dad migrate here, but all the original Chinese dishes and supplies came from China.
That is so fascinating. And that leads me into what does the future hold for the Pekin?
Well, it's kind of a bittersweet to run the Pekin now because, the soul and the heart of it is with my father and my mother and my sisters. And I'm the only one here in Butte right now, but we're going to maintain it with the help of our cousin, Nelson, who runs the kitchen now. And I guess to say that it's better now because people know what they have lost. Meaning when people used to complain a lot, like the food's not hot enough or, the service was terrible. But customers now really appreciate going out and have a kindness, and the tips are better and the delivery services are more prevalent. And so I'm seeing a resurgence of the Pekin. It's kind of, its own little monster, I guess. But, with the advent of DoorDash and delivery.com, we're getting twice as many to-go orders, which is great. And Chinese food is synonymous with takeout. So that helps our business. But the people that come here, the regulars feel it's never changed. They go in the bar, they gamble, they wait for their order to go. They make the phone calls, they watch the news. They're here for at least an hour and a half. And then their wives call, say, where's our food? And then the travelers, the tourists that are coming in, because people are now kind of seeing the U.S., they enjoy it because they've heard that's the oldest Chinese restaurant in America. We have the special dinners it's just comfort food. And they love taking pictures. They love asking the same questions you're asking. Like, what makes this place so historic? I'm able to tell them for all sorts of different reasons. And one good thing is there's a book now on Amazon.com called Food Americana, which was written by David Page. And he's the executive producer of Diners, Drivers, and Dives. And he did a chapter on chop suey, which featured our restaurant. So that just came out. So know that this book, hand in hand with these tourists traveling the nation, are getting an expert opinion on what's good in America. So it's called Food Americana by David Page. And then after 5 or 6 interviews with him, he asked me, Jerry, it seems like you work very hard. Where would you like to go in Butte if you had a chance to eat? And I said, David, there's a place called Casa Grande's that serves sushi on Thursdays. He's like, what kind of restaurant's that? It's a steakhouse, but on Thursday nights, they serve sushi. He's like, I have to talk to them. And so Casa Grande's is also in the same book that we are in, Food Americana. And one of their first press pieces will be a New York Times bestseller. So I'm very proud and honored to have them in Butte, Montana.
And the Pekin has won a lot of awards. And also there's an exhibition in New York, which is in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we had an exhibition called Chow, the Making of American Chinese Restaurant. And it was one of the first exhibitions at the Museum of Food and Drink, which was sponsored by every known chef that you could even, imagine. And so that gave great notoriety to our restaurant. But I went downstairs and pulled out all the artifacts that we just discussed, all the woks, all the vinegar bottles, and sent it to them. And they put on an exhibition that was supposed to be for 3 months that ended up being for 3 years. So then, because of the pandemic, the items never got shipped back here, so they were holding on to them. And then I got a call from Chicago for the Chinese Culture Museum. So that our portion of the exhibition is going to be sent out there, maybe for permanent display. So we're very honored that 2 huge museums are literally, putting the Pekin down, putting it down in history. And also, the best part about it is when we celebrated 100 years, our local archives did an exhibition that pretty much set the tone for these two exhibitions. So I thank Ellen Crane, the director there, for allowing us to, share our culture and share my dad's culture. My parents were alive back then, and they just got to see, all the gaming, all the artifacts from the Chinese restaurant. We even duplicated a booth, an original booth with the original color at the archives. And other than that, we got nominated for a James Beard Foundation Award, and we just applied for the National Trust for a grant for National Historic Preservation. So we'll see where we go from there. But long story short, my dad never did it for awards, he never did it for exhibitions. It's just a part of Chinese culture that he brought, with him, and married my wife, his wife, my mom, who shared the same culture as he did. And they just made Chinese food. I mean, long story short, they just worked hard every day, made Chinese food. And some people liked it, but most people loved it.
Loved it, for sure. You mentioned the M&M earlier, and such a devastating loss, and they're looking to rebuild. With the fire there, have you changed anything there at the Pekin to prevent anything like that from happening?
Well, the funny thing is we were here at late night, after a night at Casa Grande's, and we started smelling smoke. And this was around 1 o'clock. And of course, I yell and scream because I just want to relax and just have a drink with my friends. And so we had to do a complete walkthrough of our building. And the irony is, I said, see, there's nothing's on fire here. But then when we left to leave, we started to see the plumes of smoke up the street. And that's when we all reached our phone and called 911. And we watched it from 1 to 5:30. And it was the most devastating, saddest thing I've ever seen. So that kind of awoke me and our business up to kind of make sure everything was, all our ducks were in a row. Our insurance was, active. Our fire compression system was working, and just a general walkthrough that no, electrical outlets were plugged in or light bulbs that were burnt out. So it really kind of puts a scare into business, any business up here in Uptown Butte. And it's scarier that I'm looking at the post that burned down before that, and we can still smell the smoke from the M&M. So it's something, it's cause for concern every day.
Well, you're taking all the right steps on that. And as we start to wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our followers and listeners?
Well, something I want to share with you and your followers is, it's really great to be able to go out and eat and share time with family and friends and just generally turn the world off. The world has turned a different way, and I have no opinions on whether it's good or bad. But the craziest part about it is I want everyone to know that when my dad fell into health conditions, the irony is he couldn't swallow after he had a stroke. So for a little over a year, he was on a feeding tube. But this whole entire life, he cooked food for people. So I wanted to share that every time you try something new, every time you go to the grocery store, you eat, it's a privilege to eat because you never know when it's going to be taken away